Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to tell you about the film, Arrival. Watch out for spoilers. The film begins with the main character Louise's monologue about what time is all about. We are shown Louise's memories as her daughter grows up and dies of illness. Since then, time has no longer mattered to Louise. Louise is a linguist and teaches classes at the university. During the lecture, the students receive notifications on their phones, and one of the students asks Louise to turn on the news. The news talks about the landing of unknown objects around the world. An alarm goes off in the school and everyone goes outside. Louise heads to her car and military fighter jets fly overhead. Louise returns home. She talks to her mother and tells her she is fine and not to worry. The news tells her that 12 objects have landed around the world. The next day, Louise goes to work, but there is no one at the university. Colonel Weber comes to Louise and asks her to translate something. He turns on a recording of a man asking questions and receiving strange noises in response. The colonel asks Louise if she can translate it, but Louise says the tape cannot be translated and she needs to be there. The colonel refuses to take her to where the object has landed and leaves. At night, Louise watches the news and a helicopter arrives at her house. It turns out to be Colonel Weber again and tells her to pack up. In the helicopter, Louise talks to astrophysicist Ian Donnelly. As they approach the object, Louise sees that it is a huge oval-shaped structure. Louise and Ian are taken to the medics for examination. At headquarters, a host of scientists are conducting research. Colonel Weber introduces Louise and Ian to the team leaders. The group, along with Louise and Ian, put on protective suits and head for the facility. The scientists get into cars and drive to the ship. Up close, it becomes clear that the object is levitating in space. Every 18 hours, a door opens in the ship where the scientists are about to enter. The door opens and the scientists are lifted inside. A long tunnel is seen inside, and it also becomes clear that gravity is changing in the ship. The scientists jump on the wall and head upwards. Inside, they see a large bright wall that looks like glass. Louise asks what is happening and Colonel Weber says they are arriving. Behind the screen, it starts to get dark and silhouettes become visible in the fog. A group of scientists have returned to headquarters and are being processed. Louise and Ian are shocked by what they see. The colonel says Louise needs to come up with a plan of action before returning to the ship again. Louise investigates the recorded sounds of the creatures. Meanwhile, riots break out across the country over the arrival of the aliens. The scientists go to the ship again, and Louise takes a chalkboard with her. Inside, Louise writes the inscription "man" and shows the creatures. The creatures do not react and then disappear. But then one creature approaches and shows some kind of sign. Then both creatures show other signs, which pleases Louise. Colonel Becker doubts that this is a good method of teaching the aliens. He demands Louise to argue whether she should continue down this path. The colonel accepts her answer and says that she should have a dictionary ready for her next return. The colonel is not satisfied with the simplicity of the words, to which Louise tells him how to explain to the creatures why they have arrived. The scientists reassemble for the dispatch to the ship. Inside, Louise writes her name on the board and shows the creatures, and the alien shows a sign in response. Louise decides to take off her suit and goes to the screen. Louise puts her hand to the screen and the alien puts her tentacle in response. Louise says her name again and the alien shows a sign. Ian also decides to take off his costume. He writes his name on the board and also shows it. Louise asks who they are and the creatures show signs. Louise assumes they are their names. The creatures then fly away again. The scientists return to headquarters, and on the way Louise remembers something from the past. Louise is scrutinized, but so far there are no problems. Louise investigates the alien signs. Then we are shown the memories again with the girl. The voiceover suggests who these creatures are, why they landed, and who they are. Louise progresses with the study of the alien language. Scientists have clearly progressed in their research. Louise thinks the research could take months. Louise comes to Ian and they have a heated discussion about all this. Then we're told on the news about mass protests over the arrival of the aliens. Louise sits down to work, but then memories come back to her with her daughter. Louise goes outside to calm down, and at the same time she remembers her daughter. Louise is clearly getting worse, and because of her work. The colonel comes to Louise and asks her to listen to a speech by the Chinese commander-in-chief. It becomes clear that the Chinese scientists were able to talk to the aliens through play, not language. Louise and Ian go to see the aliens. Louise asks the aliens what their destination is, using signs. The alien shows a sign and Louise says they are offering weapons. A siren begins at headquarters and the bosses give the order to stop dialogue with other nations, and then other countries do the same. A group of military men arrive at the ship and plant a bomb in the ship in secret from everyone. Then Louise and Ian arrive there to question the aliens again. Louise asks if they have anything to offer. The alien offers many things and Louise chooses technology. The alien then starts banging on the screen. Security arrives at the ship and the men who planted the bomb prepare to shoot. Louise realizes that the alien wants her to write on the screen. She puts her hands to the glass and her memories come back. There is very little time before the explosion and the aliens show unusual patterns. The aliens recline Louise and Ian just before the explosion and then close the hatch. The whole staff tries to figure out what the aliens said to Louise. Louise says not to evacuate, but to go back in there and explain that it wasn't them. Then a noise is heard and everyone goes outside. Everyone sees the ship going up in the air. The news says that China is declaring war on the aliens and preparing to attack. Ian says it will take them years to decipher what the aliens have shown. Louise wakes up and Ian says he's managed to decipher something. It becomes clear that this is 1/12 of the message and they need other nations to report the messages received as well. The head of the CIA says they don't care and are on their own, to which Louise says they need to work together to get the result, which is what the aliens wanted. Louise goes alone to the ship, and something like a lift descends from the ship. Louise ends up where the creatures themselves were. Then the alien itself appears. Louise asks where the second one is, to which the alien shows a sign and Louise realizes that he died in an explosion. The alien shows Louise the signs. Louise asks how they know the future. The alien flies away and Louise goes down and the ship is about to leave. The HQ is about to evacuate. Louise's daughter asks if her mother will abandon her as well as her father, but Louise says it's her fault. She knows what's going to happen in the future and Dad gets angry not believing her. All the arriving ships take upright position and the HQ is evacuated. Louise looks at the signs again and says she can read them. She tells the colonel that the language of the creatures is a gift, and if they can learn it, they will understand the essence of time as the aliens understand it. Louise talks to the Chinese commander and he thanks her for calling him and he decides not to attack the alien ship. Louise says she didn't have his private number, but he reveals that she did. Louise runs to the phone to call the Chinese commander. Louise makes the call via satellite link. The head of the CIA finds Louise with the military. Louise talks to the Chinese commander and tells him his wife's dying words, which she learns from memories in the future. The news reports that China refuses to go to war with the aliens. All the ships take to the skies and gradually leave the planet. Louise leads a monologue about her daughter Anna's journey, just beginning with the departure of the aliens, and her husband turns out to be Ian himself. Ian says it wasn't the meeting with the aliens that struck her the most, but meeting Louise. Ian asks if she wants a baby. Louise says yes. That's the end of Arrival. A beautiful piece of work showing that people need to strive to come together to solve the world's common problems. Thank you for watching it, dear friends, and all the best.